What's going on, guys? Miami here with JST, and I have a guest with me.
Rick Carson, and we're at the beautiful Make Believe Studios.
And it's actually not make-believe because we are here in this moment. Today, we're going to be doing a video on how to make a vocal stand out in a mix. And this makes a lot of sense for us to do together because I am a vocalist and Rick is an amazing engineer and producer who's worked on some of your favorite bands, one most notably being A Day to Remember. I grew up on this band from 2004, Plot to Bomb the Panhandle, been here since then. So Rick, you want to tell them a little bit more about what this video entails?
Yeah, so what we're trying to do is give you guys a couple ideas to get a quick vocal sound right off the bat, and to throw us a curveball. Instead of using my favorite microphone or really any of my microphones, we have been sent a beautiful Telefunken TF11 that, we tried out on Miami's Vocal and we thought it sounded great, so why not use it for this? So we have a new microphone with a new vocalist in the studio. You could think of these files as being sent to you to mix where it's something you've never heard before, or you could also think of it as if you got the call and you were asked to come in and work in a studio that you've never worked in before. How would you go about getting a vocal sound?
And to top it all off, not only are you going to be listening to this, but one lucky person is going to win this microphone. All you have to do is follow Make Believe Studios on Instagram, Joey Sturgis Tones on Instagram, and like, comment, and subscribe on this video. The thing that's going to be the best part about this is whoever wins this microphone, I guess, is going to have a way of knowing how to process it, since that's exactly what we're going to be doing with it. So thank you, Telefunken, and we're going to get into this right now. Can I go hop in the booth?
Yeah, go.
All right.
This is a computer that I own, but this is not my computer as far as my mix rig goes. This is actually Ryan's computer, so I don't know everything that's on here intimately. I have a pretty good idea of the things that I should be able to use, but the first thing that I want to do is I want to go and set up a reverb and delay send. So we're going to do that first. The first thing I'll do is set up a basic reverb. We'll call that reverb. And then the second thing that I will do is set up a delay, and we will call that delay. And that may end up being a quarter note or an eighth note, but if we're trying to get a professional vocal sound, I am definitely trying to go about getting a little bit of sauce on there. And now we've got reverb and delay buses, and I will go ahead and put these faders at 0, just so that when I start throwing effects on there, I can pull up the faders, and I will do that. In my typical template, this is already done, so that I can just start mixing and pushing things around. So now I have a reverb and delay bus, and I've got their returns here. For reverb, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna grab Epic from CLA, because I know that there is a A plate in here. So I'm gonna mute this delay and not utilize that. I'm just looking to utilize this A plate. I like to use a little bit shorter of a pre-delay, 107 milliseconds. And then typically I like to use 1.7 seconds. And this has nothing to do with Epic or Echosphere or anything like that. I'm just very familiar with the A plate preset from the Lexicon 480. I'm a big fan. I've used it on every Lexicon, whether it's the 480 or the 300. I've gone and tested every plugin that it's supposed to model, including this one. So I know that that exists there, and now I have a Lexicon plate. So good to go. And then the next thing that I will do is set up a delay. And for delay, I am a little bit basic when it comes to that. I tend to rely on H delay a lot. I tend to also use Metric Halo's dirty delay, but we are on this computer, so we are going to go ahead and use H delay. And I'm going to put this at 100% wet. First thing I'm going to do is turn this analog off. And these are not things that I'm spending a lot of time making decisions on. I've figured this out through years of experimentation that I almost never want anything different. I don't have to go try out all these things. And you can also see that I've pulled up some filters here. They seem like pretty drastic 2.3 and 115, but for some reason I tend to set these filters the same way that I'd set the knobs on a Boss CE2, and it's always kind of worked out for me. So now we have a quarter note delay. The next thing, before we even start listening to stuff, I like to limit the vocals, and if I'm trying to get a good sound moving fast, I tend to do this with L1 if I'm on anybody else's computer. If I'm on a computer that has the software that we tend to make, I use Kevin's limiter. It's absolutely wonderful. It's just a nice pre-limiter for the vocal. So, you know, we'll listen to that real fast. And now again with Kevin's limiter. So you can see right off the bat, you know, we're trying to get a vocal that cuts through the mix, sounds more professional. This, you know, for me, it's a very simple solution to make that vocal just step forward a little bit. And then the next thing I'm going to do is get into what I would consider heavier lifting. We're going to go with an equalizer, and then we're going to go with a compressor. I tend to lean SSL because that's what I grew up with. That's what I have in my room. That's what I like to make records on. I really like the SSL channel. And then I also have made an equalizer called MBEQ that is based off my personal workflow. And nowadays I tend to do a lot of this pretty much with these two tools, but one of them's hardware and one of them is software. So I'm going to try and recreate that workflow here on, you know, in the box with some plugins. The first thing I'm going to use is the Waves SSL channel. And what I want to do here is I'm going to rely on this compressor, but I want to EQ into my compressor always. I want to bring up sheen and, you know, make the compressor sound a little bit stressed out so that I can get some vibe going. So I'm actually going to use a pretty hard ratio. We're hanging out over here in a fast attack and a fast release. And I'm going to use a very wide open threshold so that this isn't hitting a lot. But as I tend to, you know, you'll see when I press play, we're not hanging out in heavy gain reduction land. But as I start adding equalization to this, we are going to get more gain reduction, and we're probably going to start seeing like a pretty solid 6 dB over here. And we may modify that with our ratio to get less, but you know, if we're trying to get a little vibe from the SSL channel, I found that this is a great way on a lead vocal, especially for a song like this. Now that we've got our compressor set up on our channel, the next thing that I want to do is go and set up my EQs and filters. The first thing that I like to do is just pull out some low end. So that's something that I do by ear. You know, I like to turn it up to the, you know, point where I kind of hear like it disappears or, you know, pulls a little bit of low end out, and then I back it off. So you saw me go up towards 90 and I came back down towards 50. The next thing I'm going to do is go and work on making him pop in the top end. I can already tell you, listening to this, the frequencies that I'm going to rely on. I'm going to be relying on 8K here in the top with a shelf, probably going to be relying on a little bit of 3K here with a very wide bell. I'm probably going to be relying either on 1.5K or 2.5K with a medium bell to a wider bell. We're going to be hanging out on this side of the cue. We're going to set it up like this, and we're going to just start adding some gain. So what I'm hearing right away is that I'm not particularly digging this 3K boost, and this 2.5K boost is working a little bit better for me. So I'm going to reutilize this over here to go and grab a 1.5K boost and see how that works out for me. And that sounds really, really good to me. That helps bring him forward. It also makes him have a pretty solid center to his vocal. But with all of this high end that I'm bringing up, you know, I'm now losing something in the... And I've also got a little bit of a going on. So we're going to go pull up MBEQ, and we are going to go after a couple things. So the first thing is low end, and I'm just gonna go. Somebody said lighten up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while. So typically somewhere between 180 to 250, very wide, very shallow. I'm not trying to boost a ton. Not doing anything like that. I'm just trying to get a little bit of body. Somebody said lighten up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had Okay, so let me talk about that. So what I'm looking for, and when I'm trying to move quick and find a frequency like that, is when I'm looking for a resonant tone, what you're gonna find is you're gonna find a note that sucks everywhere. Like when you listen to every word that he says, it sucks. It doesn't suck sometimes, it always sucks.
Somebody said lighting up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while.
And when you start finding those things, those are the things that I go by.
Somebody said lighting up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while.
And that does a great job, you know, even that right there did a great job of going after just pulling him, you know, back on the S's and from sounding kind of almost like this ticky sound. And then the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to go after utilizing a LA3A style compressor. And we're going to make sure that we have no noise on because that can be very, very obnoxious. And we're going to take this and we're going to turn this to flat because we don't want extra reduction on our high frequency.
Somebody said lighting up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while. You always ruin the fun before it's even begun. It's so impossible to make you smile.
Okay, so, you know, you can see here, like a lot of people want to talk about 7, 10, 20 dB of compression. I'm not looking for that. You know, I've got a little bit of lifting going on here.
Somebody said lighting up.
And that thing's moving fast, so like it's grabbing those transients, but it also releases quick. And this thing is doing a couple dB. And that I think sounds really, really good. And you know, here's where we're gonna go after the last thing that I think you need to really know how to do, which is on a modern record, high end is not natural. You know, there's no microphone in the world that you can buy that is going to provide you with enough top end that it is a modern sounding record, especially in a production this dense. You know, if you have a guy at a piano, sure, you can get away with a U47 if you want to, but for, you know, the majority of things, you're either going to be adding top end or recording with a very bright microphone and then still adding top end. And with that, you got to figure out how to treat your S's. I'm going to show you a couple of my favorite ways now. The first one is going to be our de-esser, which is just, you know, a classic and it sounds incredible. You know, what I like to do is this thing pulls up at 55. That's totally fine. I like to go and I like to take this range and just boop, that goes all the way down, which is more of the shape of the DBX 902. And then I just go and I change my threshold to watch out. You know, I don't want to see -10, but if -10 doesn't suck, then I'll live with it. But I'm going to hit these S's hard.
Somebody said lighting up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while. You always ruin the fun before it's even begun. It's so impossible to make you smile. Somebody said that.
So like you see that -13 that made him sound like he had a lisp. That's too much.
Somebody said lighting up, it sounds easy, but
-9.85, I'm living with it. Okay, but we still got a little bit of something gnarly. And this is a great trick that I learned from watching, you know, the wonderful Dave Pensato that I'm going to share with you guys. So we're looking for C1SC, which is one of the original Waves plugins, C1, but this is their sidechain version. And it has a great tunable sidechain. We're gonna go in here and we're gonna pull up this Dave Pensato 3K remover. And what we're gonna do is go to our sidechain.
somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun.
And we're
in
gonna
a
tune
while.
that.
You always ruin the fun before it's even begun. It's so impossible to make you smile. Somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun.
And this thing is gonna soften that vocal right on up for us.
Somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun in a while.
And this is one of those things where you gotta really watch because you don't want this thing to take the light.
Somebody said light it up, it sounds.
This sounds really good to me. Like that sounds like a vocal that I like, you know? But what I want to do now is it sounds on top. doesn't sound like it's too loud, relatively. It is too loud, but it doesn't sound like it's blistering too loud, but it doesn't sound like it sits in the song. And a lot of that's going to come down from the fact that we're missing effects. How fast the song is, and from the words, I can already tell that we're probably going to be living in eighth note territory more so than quarter note territory. 1.7 seconds rules, so I'm not going to change that. So we're going to just turn these guys on, and they're already being sent, so we can just start turning them up and blending them in.
Somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any. Somebody said light it up.
And you can see them stopping it so I can hear the tail. This delay is about the vibe of the vocal sound. Any other delays that you want to do for throws or creative effects, that's totally cool, you know? And in a song like this, I'd probably have 2 of these going. And this is a wonderful trick that I really have been ingrained into my brain by the great David Bendeth, where there'll be an eighth note going on in the verse like this, and then there'll be a quarter note that happens in the chorus. And a lot of people want to believe that that change from eighth note to quarter note delay is actually a bigger reverb. And it's not. It's the delay, but there'll tend to be space for it. The words won't be as fast, the song will hang out longer, and you can even hear it, there's more space.
Somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had.
So yeah, if there were more words, I'd probably be automating between an eighth note and a quarter note. And just so everybody at home is aware, you're going to want to have 2 sends and returns to be able to do that, because if you try and automate the time, it'll slow down and speed up like you're using Verify all over the place. Okay, and then the last thing that I think really needs to happen when it comes to this vocal comes to the fader. Like, it needs to be quieter. I'm going to turn it down a little.
Somebody said light it up, it sounds easy, but you haven't had any sun.
And I feel great. I can hear every word, and the music sounds like it's enveloping the vocal, so my job is done. Have a great day, guys. If you have any questions, please hit up JST, hit us up. Miami, myself, we're here for you.
Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we will catch you next time. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow Make Believe Studio as well as Joey Sturgis Tones. Both of those will be in the description below.
Have a good day.
Peace.